saya Yong. Saya juga developer expert Dart and Flutter, and I'm a senior software engineer at Common Solutions. So I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and my company is also based in Kuala Lumpur and also in Zurich, Switzerland. So yeah, let's start. To the agenda for today. First, just a short sentence of what is Flutter for people who doesn't know, and I will introduce you about our design system and how we implement it, and then how we group the widgets and how we manage the localizations, and finally to show you how we use widget book to visualize all the components. So this will be where you can get the slides for today. And if, let's say, you want to follow through later, you can just go to this link. You should be able to get the slides. But don't worry, I will show this link again at the end of the presentation. So, Flutter. Siapa di sini guna Flutter? Hobi atau kerja? Very passionate. Okay, we have about half the room easily. So for the other half, what is Flutter? Flutter is a cross-platform UI toolkit that is from Google and allow you to code once, and we can build to 6 platforms at once. So the platforms are like iOS, Android, web, Mac, Windows, and Linux. So today's topic is more about design system. Sorry for the slightly change in the title. The initial title is about the component library, but now I changed to design system because I think that's more comprehensive. So why do we need a design system? It's basically a language that's between the QA, the designers, and also developers. Because if we don't have a common language, then the communication will be a chaos. And so once we have a good design system, then we can ensure that it will be more consistent, and the UI will also be more familiar to user. And of course, it also helps us as developer to speed up the development. So the very first component of a design system is colors. A typical app can have tens or even hundreds of different colors. So how do we manage them? Yeah, so if let's say you don't have a system that manages color, just imagine one day your client say, hey, I want to have a dark mode. And they'll be like, oh my god, I have hundreds of places in the app. I need to change the color manually. So yeah, now we can start to learn how can we leverage the design system to help us with that. So how do we manage the colors? Here I will split into 2 types of palettes. So the top 2, the highlighted part is the reference palette. So you have the primary palette. In the primary palette, you give each color a name. And then in the secondary palette, you assign the role to the names. And finally, in the usage palette, then you will define how you will use these colors in your app. So the very first example, let's say we have these 4 colors in the app, and then each color has its own hex code. But these are not what I meant by the names. So but what I meant by the names is you give them a more human, understandable name. Like the first one, it looks like grape, so we name it a grape color. The second one, you can call it a strawberry color. And then the third one is the button color. You can name it with some other names that you and your team agree with. And finally, the fourth one, the mint color. Test. Okay. Yeah, so once we have the first 4 colors, then we also need to add the shades that we use in the app, because these we also have it, right? Like for example, in our text, we might have it as a background color, we might have it. So we just include all the colors that we use in the app. So here I named the darkest color rawon, because soup rawon is my favorite food. And then the other colors I can also name it with something that makes sense, something that when you can relate to the color that you visually see. So like iron, mouse, cloud, and wood. So how do I implement the primary palette? And for people who are new to Dart, so because Dart is an object-oriented language, and here I need to create a base class, and this class I'm labeling it with seal. So if you are new to this class modifier, it's okay. So seal, in short, it means that when you have this keyword, it will make the class, well, first it will be abstract, and then second, it will be not extensible outside the library. So once we put things inside this package, then the other packages or other projects, they cannot extend this class. And this is important for our palettes because we want to make sure that it's consistent. And so in our primary class, it's just an enum called palette primary, and this implements the palette base class. And then you have the names of the colors that we have defined just now. Those are the names of your enum. And then each enum can have a value. So the value here, it corresponds to the text color that we have just now. And in Flutter, this is how you display the color code. So yeah, so then that's it. That's our primary palette class. And then now we can look at the secondary palettes where we assign the rows to each of these names. So just now we haven't talked about the shades. Now in the secondary palette we assign the row, right? So the row of these colors are to provide a shade, a level of shade to each of the maybe a text or component. So for the first one, the round one is a full shade, and then it slowly gets lighter. So we also assign the name accordingly. And again, very similarly, we have the enum, just a different name now, is the palette shades. It implements the same base class, and then we have the name of the shade and its value. The value is the primary palette value, and that's it. Then we look at the brand palette. Brand palette is another secondary palette. So to simplify the example, we only have 2 colors in our brand. We have the main brand color and also an accent color to complement it. So the main color is the grape color, the accent color is the strawberry color. And again, you have seen this over and over again. So to establish a palette brand enum, you put the main color, and then you assign the grape color as the value. So we have covered the first 2 palettes that we use as a reference. So now we can look at how we actually use it in the app. That's in the usage palettes. So what are the usage palettes? These are just examples. They are not exhaustive, there might be more. So the most common ones are like the interaction palette, text palette, layout, and icon. The first one is the interaction palette. So let's say interaction palette, like the example of use case is you want to use it to show as the button background or the button color, or let's say you want to show as the link color, so something that user interacts with, then you put in the interaction palette. So here I have just 4. the main interaction color, the inverted one, when the button or link is disabled, and also the highlight color. And yeah, so the same thing again. It's just that now the value of each enum is coming from the reference palette. So previously we have already defined the brand color and the shade color. Now we can use it as the value of these enums in the interaction palette. Okay, now we look at the text palette. The pattern is still following the same as the previous one. The only thing that I want you to notice is for the arrow color. So like you have arrow text in your app, and we will use the arrow color from the text palette. Make sense? And then, but here I'm referring to the strawberry color. And even though I have already defined the brand accent color, I've already defined the interaction highlight color, they are both strawberry color. Why do I not put any of them but the strawberry color? And here is the reason why. It is not the brand accent color because they shouldn't be related to each other. So just imagine that if, let's say, your client say, oh, I want to change the brand color, I want to change the brand logo. So your accent color has changed, but you don't want your arrow text color to change as well. So this is why we keep them unrelated. And it is also not the interaction highlight color because it is not coming from the reference palette. So the value is always from the reference palette, and then the usage palette is what we have here. So same thing, I think I won't go through this again. I think you can check later from the slides. And then we have the layout color. So layout here, you can imagine, okay, I have a background for the scaffold of the app, and let's say I have the card, and then the card also has its own background, and I have the footer, it might need to have a different color, and then I also have the line color. So all these you can group and put under the layout palette. So that's all about colors. Now we can look at how we manage the different typography. So typography here refers to the text styles. You use a lot of different text styles in your app, but we don't want to keep them random. We want to make sure that we use them consistently, like in every part of the app. So let's say you have the headers, you have paragraph, you have some small notes, and those we want to apply consistent style. And for typography, it's rather straightforward. There's only one thing that you need to keep in mind. So the first thing we will do is we create a default text style, and that will be the base text style for every other variation that we will have. So let's see from the default typography first. So let's imagine that you got this list of text style from your designer, and then you say, okay, now I have 5 different styles in the default typography, and each of them have slightly different font size, they have different line height, and even the font weight. So once we have this, then we, like I said, we need to create a base first, right? So the base here is the default style name. So how do we do that? So we create a class, and this class is called the base text style, and this class is extending the text style that is built in from Flutter, and already there it has a lot of parameters that you can configure, customize yourself. So based on the design that we got from the designer, then you can put in the default value. So here I define the font family, I define the text decoration, font weight, and so on. And then after that, I can create an abstract class to group this together. So here I just name my abstract class default typography, And inside there, I have my variations, right? I have the base, I have the small bold underline, I might have bold or something else. So then base is just totally the same as the base textile class that we have just now. So you don't have to put in anything. And then, for example, we have the small bold underline style. And this one we put in what is different from the base textile. So what's different here is the font weight, the font size, line height, and also the decoration. So once you follow this pattern, and then you will build the whole abstract class for the default typography. And you can have more. So just now was just the default one, and then we might have the title typography. So here is a list of the title styles. So you might have a very big title, and the designer called that super title strong. And then you have the base title, just called title. And you have the strong one, called title strong. So again, it has its own font size and weight. And the pattern is the same. So for, let's say, the super strong one, you put in what's different from the base textile. So what different here is the font weight, font size, and height, and so on. So that's how you build the title typography. So that's all about typography. So just now you might have more. You might have those typography for the meta tags and so on. So it depends on your project, and you can add more as you like. So now I talk about spaces. So some of you might think, what are spaces? Like spaces, it refers to the margins and the paddings that you use in the app. And sometimes when you look at the design, let's say from Figma, then you find that why sometimes I have 5 pixels on this side, and then I have 4 pixels on the other side. They are not so consistent. And as a developer, we might just, okay, that's what designer wants, so I put in exactly as that value. But actually, sometimes that's a designer mistake, and then we just copy and follow through that mistake. So how to avoid these kind of things from happening is we list down all the possible values of the spaces that we are using in the app. So here I have all the way from 2 pixels, 4 pixels, until 32 pixels. And in fact, in the last 2 projects that we use, we have a lot more. We have maybe up to 64 pixels. So it's up to the project, but here I'm showing an example. So once we have this down, the list of spaces, then we give them a name. Just like the colors, we give a name, and here I'm using the t-shirt size, because t-shirt size is the most direct to imagine. So I have from tiny all the way until XXL and huge. So this is how you name the spaces. And once you have the list of possible values, so you put into an abstract class. So now you might notice I'm using abstract classes a lot, and here I'm just using that to group my values together. So same case here, for the spacing, I have from tiny all the way to huge, and each of them is just a static constant, and its pixel value. And finally, talk about icons and all the images that we use in the app. So here is just a screenshot of the material icons from the Google website, but in fact you might have a lot more. You might not just have icons, you also might have the graphics that you use in the app. So it doesn't matter, just put everything, every image, every icon that you use under this category. And again, with the abstract class, and then here the name I use is app icon. It can be something else, up to you. And here I'm just storing all the paths to the asset. So yeah, I just create a prefix because I put everything under this directory. And then after that, I have all the path to the icons or images that I use inside the abstract class. So that is all about the design system that we use at Converge. So now, how do we put it into a package? And here I'm using a term that I haven't clarified yet, so I will do it now. What is taxonomy? Just now I've been talking about design system, but we are using the term taxonomy to refer to the design system in the company. So taxonomy is a science of classification. So it's generally used, like let's say in biology, you use it to classify all the animal species or plant species. And then the same thing, we are using a way of classifying, but we apply it on our design system. And that refers to our palettes, our typography, and also the spaces and so on. So why I put it into a package? So this is because I want to use it as a dependency of other packages or other projects. So just imagine if, let's say, if I work at Facebook, I work at Meta, then I have a design system that is shared between Instagram and Threads. So if you want to share this, you can put the taxonomy as a package so that it can be shared between two or more different projects. And how do we create a package? So for people who are already using Flutter, you might be familiar already with Flutter, the Flutter create command. So what you need to do to create a package is just to put --template equals to package, and then the name of your package. So the name here I use is the taxonomy. After that, it has generated the bootstrap for the package. Then you just put everything inside. You put all the colors, spaces, everything into it. It doesn't matter how you organize it. I think there are only a couple of files, so it's not too messy. And that's it. Okay, now I have gone through the design system. Let's not forget about widgets, how we manage the widgets. And as you already know, that widgets can be very complex. So this is an example of a rather complex widget because you can split them up into smaller widgets. And once you split them up, then it becomes reusable. Like when you want to reuse, let's say, the icon button or the text description or the image in other places, you can do that. And how do we split them? Like how we group them together is we split them into the UI part. So the UI part is how they look. And then I will also create use cases on how they are used. So you can see the difference between the two here. The first part is how they look. So let's say you can name it a labeled icon, card title, icon button, and so on. And for use cases, these are the specific way to use those UI components. So let's say I have a product section header, I have product image, I have the add to cart icon, add to cart button, sorry. So here I'm just showing an example of the differences between UI and use case. So for the UI, I'm taking primary button as an example. So what is inside the primary button is an elevated button. Elevated button is built in from Flutter. And then after that, you put in the style and also the text. So the style, you can see I'm using the value from the design system we have just now. I'm using the palette interaction, the palette text, and same goes to the typography. I'm using the default typography, the small strong. So this is how you can apply it in your widgets. And then you have the use case. So one example of use case is an add to cart button. And you can see that I'm just using the primary button I have defined just now. And probably what you need to customize is the on press, like what will happen when you press on the button, and also the label of the button. This is another use case. It can be also a primary button, it can be other button. So here is a login with Google button. It has an icon, it has a G icon. It also has the label called login with Google. And here I just want to quickly mention how we localize those widgets, because in many projects we are building for users of multiple countries, multiple languages. So how do we manage that? Like for example, if we have a login with Google button, when user from Indonesia, they open the app, then you want to show it in Bahasa Indonesia. So how do we manage this? And here the important thing is I'm using a key from a localization package. And you will see later. I think I will go through a bit faster since I'm running out of time. So again, I'm setting up localization as a package because I want to use it also across multiple projects. And that's why I do that. And the step is similar like the taxonomy just now. We just need a couple more dependencies to do the localization. So this is how your prospect would look like after you have run the commands just now. And what we need is the Flutter localizations and the IMTL. And one more important thing is I have the generate flag to true, because we need it to generate some of the localization string that we use in the app. And this I will skip. So here I assume the base language is in English. So I have the app.en ARB file. ARB file is just a JSON file, it has key value. And then you have the name of the phrase as the key, and then you have the actual text that you display to the user as the value. So if let's say I have a customer from European and they want to view the app in German, so I will create an app.de.arb, and here I will put in the German translation as the value. And I use this command to generate this localization file. And once you have it, then in your main project, then you can import this localization as a package. So the important key here is, let's say in your material app, you can put in the delegates. So the two params that you need to pay attention to is the localization delegates and also the supported locales. These are directly imported from the My Localization package. So finally, I will talk about what is widget book. I probably don't have time to go through how to set up, but you already have it in your slides. So in the end, you will put everything that we have just now, and then you put inside an open source package called widget book. If you are coming from a web developer background, you might know Storybook.js. So inside here, you have, on the left, you have the categories. So you can group them under each category. And then in the middle, you have the preview panel. And on the right, you have some controls. So these controls are like the localization or the light and dark theme. Or you can also adjust the text scale, because people might adjust the zoom of their the display on the phone. So you can also preview that. So these are the things that will help you as a developer to check if your UI, if it's responsive enough. If you change the parameters, it will break anything. And as a designer, they can also review, right? They can check if you are implementing according to what they want, what they have designed. So this is a perfect tool for both designers and developers. So yeah, I will skip this, and I will just show you the end result once we have put in. So just now we have the palettes, right? So I put them under the taxonomy group. And then I have typography and palettes. So on the palette side, I just put them inside the main palette. And then you will see in the preview panel the list of all the palette colors. And for images, I'm just putting each of the image on one use case. These are called the use case. And same thing for widget. So for widgets, you have a bit more control. Like I said, you can have some add-ons. These are like the localization add-on or the knobs. So let's say I have a toggle button, and then I want to check if how does it look like when the value is off or on. So now it's off, and now it's on. So you can see immediately in the preview panel. And then you can also change the locale. So let's say I have a German translation. I can see how it looks like. So this is an example of button with label. Once you change it to English, then it will change immediately. And yeah, so you can do that. You can play with different combinations. Just a quick recap. What is the taxonomy? Taxonomy is our design system. And we have this design system so that we can easily manage, and we can put them inside Flutter package so they can be used across projects. And then we can always split widgets into smaller components so they can be reused. We can also put localization in its own package. And finally, I encourage you to explore widget book when you are developing a design system or a component library. So you can use it for visualization, also debugging during your UI development. So that's it. Thank you very much for coming. I'm very happy to be invited here.